So Jared asked me to go help him race at this Outlaw Armageddon no prep race. And initially I was pretty hesitant because I struggled at drag week last year with traction, and that was on a prep track. So to go to a track that wasn't going to have starting line prep seemed like a pretty dismal event. I didn't think it was going to go well because I don't have a lot of cubic inches to work with. I have to use a small engine at high engine speed to accelerate the car. And when you are racing on a surface that doesn't have a lot of traction available at the starting line, the first thing you'd want to do is reduce RPM to reduce the shock, the initial shock that the tire gets hit with. Well, when you reduce the RPM so much on a small engine, it just simply stops making power. I mean, visualize a Supra dyno sheet. They're not proud at 4,000 RPM.
With no prep racing, you're able to do it in a controlled environment, in front of fans, with front of the cameras, and you actually get, you know, to me, it's the same rush of street racing. Granted, there's not going to be, oh, if we get caught, but you still have the same conditions, the same flashlight start, the same kind of competitors. They're just trying to do it on an unprepped surface at a track.
So there isn't a ton of rules to follow. You know, you just basically have to have a street car, a car that can be driven on the street, survive on the street, and use this tire. So if you could have a turbo, you could have nitrous, you could have a big engine, that part of it was left for the racer to decide what package he wanted to compete with, but you had to be able to drive it on the street and you had to use this tire. The class that we raced in was a true street class, so the cars had to go on a cruise, not break down, make it back to the racetrack, and use a 275 drag radial tire. So there were Mustangs there with turbo LS engines. There were some extremely fast S10, GMC Sonoma type trucks. Basically cars that were set up to race in, I'd probably say an ultra street level of X275, but still streetable. Those were the cars that we would compete against. So in order for me to understand the no prep racing, I just thought it would be best that I went and sat in the stands. The group of people that were surrounding this event, the spectators, were phenomenally cool people. They were really hardcore. I mean, they stayed 1, 2 a.m. They were out there in the blazing sun. Like, these were hardcore fans, and they were playing, they were gambling, they were screaming. It was a lively crowd. So once I started to kind of feed off of their energy and see what they saw, then it was easier for me to get interested in it. It's pretty wild. The guy that starts the race has a flashlight in his hand, and he brings the cars to the makeshift starting line. He rolls back on his heels, and at some point he turns this light on, and you got a race. The test day was on Friday, so we showed up and we were able to make a few test runs with the car. I thought that I was just gonna have to do the best I could and accept getting beat because I spun the tires. I was struggling with a low enough engine speed to get off the starting line, but still have some power available, because if you make the car dumb enough on the starting line, it will go off of a bald starting line, but it doesn't come on soon enough to win a race. So it just turns into this big bog. So I didn't feel very good on Friday about how Saturday would go. I did watch the competition in the class run, and there were 5 or 6 cars that I thought could easily beat us.
You have 3 rounds of qualifying, which aren't really qualifying. If you lose one race, there's a really good chance you're not going to make the final, because you've got to win all 3 qualifiers to guarantee you a spot at the big race. So they're going to take 8 competitors and ties into the finals. So starting in round 1, we drew Kenny LaFleur. It was a turbo LS Javelin, very quick car. I didn't know a lot about the car. I knew it was fast. So we put what we felt like was the best tune-up to go A to B. And we did. We ended up getting a win in round 1. Nice guy, great competitor. So I was looking forward to seeing who we were racing in round 2, and lo and behold, we drew the exact same car. So with that said, we kind of knew what we were up against, but it was nighttime at the round 2. It wasn't daytime. Track condition had changed quite drastically. We kept the same tune-up in the car. the car spun. I was pedaling the car, short shifting in a second to try to play catch up because he was out 2 or 3 cars on me. Thankfully, you know, with the old 2JZ, we had the top end charge to come around him on the big end. I think we ended up coming around him by maybe a car and a half, maybe. And that gave us the second round win. So we had one more win that we had to get to be guaranteed a shot into the finals. And in that third round, we actually drew Bo Brown, which was the car that got disqualified on the cruise due to having no hood. So we got a competition bye in the third round going into the finals. So I knew without a doubt we were going into the finals, which was a big deal. So 91 car field or whatever it was, the only 6-cylinder import, only IRS car, I mean, so many onlys with that. But the only car in the class that was anywhere near what I had, we were going on to the finals.
The changes that I made on Friday, I wouldn't really call them successful. I was headed in the right direction. The amount of runs I had available and the progress I was making, I was going to be out of time to compete. So when I went back to the hotel Friday night, it was very late. I just went to sleep. I got up early, just got on my laptop and started looking at the Motec and seeing what answers that I could have through it. And I came up with a strategy that I thought would be a lot better on Saturday.
So the first round of eliminations, we drew a local racer by the name of Jerome Courtney. It's you know, 07, 05, 08, somewhere in that body style. Single cab Silverado, extremely fast turbo LS. I think I heard sometime over the weekend that he holds the leaf spring truck record. I believe the truck's been like 8.0, 8.1, 8.2, very fast truck. I wait for the right lane to leave before I even let off the trans brake because I could not see the flagger. We got out, that truck spun, something happened. I think he went into a boost cut. We instantly went around him, went on to win that round. So going into the next round, we drew an extremely fast 91 Sonoma from the Chicago area. It's a turbo LS, like 94 millimeter, bad boy truck. I knew he was fast. As the light came up, I hit the light, I treated him just a hair, but that little bit that I was able to leave on and get out was the deciding factor. We literally won this race by maybe a half a bumper to a fender. It was by far the closest race we had all weekend. That truck was some kind of fast. After talking with him after the pass, he said I got out on him and he knew my car was fast, so he hit the scramble boost button, and in 660 feet, it just wasn't enough to come around me.
We're going to the finals. We're racing Cody. All 405 final. Out of the baddest two-street cars in the country, and we're the only import powered car in the class. So let's go.
We were pulling up. I mean, this is it. This is what we'd worked towards all weekend. This was the finals. You know, all my crew was there. Some of the biggest names in no prep were surrounding the starting line. All the guys that I, you know, kind of look up to. I mean, these guys are doing it every weekend. They're doing it on the biggest stage. They were there on my side of the lane with their arm pointed left for Jrod, because that's what lane I was in. It was really cool to see all the support from the local 405 guys pointing towards my lane. Because obviously being an import in the 405 is not the most common thing. All these guys are racing big block, small block, nitrous, turbo, LSs, small block Fords. I mean, definitely not 6-cylinder imports. So as we're pulling up to the line, Cody was taking a little bit longer in the lanes. Didn't really matter to me. My car, you know, it's a street car. It's not going to overheat. boy, when that light came up, I was on it. I left on him. He got out. He knew my car was fast. He threw the sink at it. His car spun about 100 foot out, and he knew if he spun, he wasn't going to catch me. My car was on a pass. Jay put the perfect tune-up.
You know, I had to think about what tools over the weekend were the most important. And the first one I would say is Jrod, because Jrod does extremely well under pressure. I know I've said it before, but I kind of like put myself in his shoes over the weekend because he is an import guy in Oklahoma. I mean, these guys don't believe what he believes. I mean, Jrod is pretty hardcore into Japanese 90s cars, and these guys are pretty hardcore into big displacement, turbo, nitrous, twin turbo V8 engines. So I think that he definitely has something to prove amongst his peers, and it's well received. I mean, you listen to people, how they talk to him, like he's the underdog there, and for him to win that event was extremely cool. The second thing that I heavily relied on is the Motec. I did get approached by a couple different racers that asked for some help, and while I was working in their computers, I just kind of felt that they were really missing out, and that people don't understand that if you're going to race to win, the Motec is a critical tool to have access to. And when I was eating breakfast on Saturday morning, it just came to me, well, I'll just use the Motec for this. And that's what I did, and it worked out. It was awesome to just have a solution available based off of my creativity, which is something that Motec's offered for a long time. The last thing would be access to good fuel. I didn't pull the spark plugs out of the car and check them. I just looked over the Lambda, looked over basic stuff in the log, but having access to good fuel and not having to really worry about engine health. So I spent my effort was focused on how to get off the starting line and get power applied properly. I didn't have to worry about engine health, which you shouldn't have to worry about. You should be using the right fuel for the power you're trying to make and not rattle your engine apart. So that was pretty neat too, to not have to have concerns about reliability. I just had the concern about a starting line.
I plan to do next is get it ready for TX2K. We got a few small things I want to fix on the car, just little housekeeping things, maintenance the car, get it cleaned up and get it ready for TX2K. And I really want to go faster than 750s. Obviously you want to go faster every time you go out there, and that'll be the next time that we'll be on a timed surface. So I want to go fast. I want to go 730s or faster next year. I think we have the setup to do it, and we'll just see if we can accomplish it.